Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's video. We're going to look at where the next week to 10 days in today's video. It's going to take us more or less to the middle of January. So we're going to go pretty much to the halfway point of the winter. We haven't had much winter in terms of snow so far this year, but we have had more frost, I think, than has been the case over the past few weeks. Probably have the most frost many parts of the country since around 2012, 2013. And last night was very cold. We'll have a quick look at that in a second from website xcweather.com. After that, we'll go on and have a look at where next week to 10 days. And I think we're looking at a changeable period really setting up next week. And still this idea we've got an alignment northwest to southeast of the jet stream and the flow. So we could bring some colder conditions into the north, particularly at times later next week. Still nothing really sustained in terms of cold weather, I have to say, but we might be shifting to certainly a colder period, and there is perhaps the scope for upgrades with this pattern. We looked at the GFS ensembles last night. There were several options in there that were looking really quite cold indeed. And as I say, there might be the potential from this northwest southeast flow around the middle part of January for a few upgrades perhaps to come through. But we'll have a look at all the detail in a second. Before I get on with that, to say about the ads, says video ads post page. You say own content when you watch a close book up again, helps pay for gas. Thanks very much for doing that. So this is the minimums that we had across the country at 8:39 this morning. This was posted in the comment box section at Gazovitz by our good friend James. So we got down to -8 there in Benson in Oxfordshire. That's a cold spot, and Benson tends to be one of the places that has the lowest temperatures overnight. It's a bit of a frost hollow. But you see, it was widely a very frosty night across many parts of the country. Eastern coastal counties stayed a little bit frost-free, but many parts had frost last night, going down to -3, -4, -5 degrees. I say Benson was a bit at the extreme end, as it often is. You notice frost-free across Ireland, and that's a sign of the mild air beginning to encroach. That'll be coming across the country through the course of tomorrow. But we have had more frost, I think, so far this winter than we've had over the past few winters. So we've done okay for frost. We're still waiting for some widespread snow, of course. So these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts for the next week to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which we'll have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure and low pressure being moved around by the jet stream running above. Let's extrapolate to low pressure and red to high pressure. So you can see what's going on for the 7 to 10 day time frame. These are the mean flow charts for 7 to 10 days. Takes us to the middle part of January, and we've got this ridge in the central part of the Atlantic, and then we've also got quite a deep trough here across Scandinavia. So the flow is coming northwest to southeast between the trough and the ridge. It's doing something like that. Now the coldest air is still going down into eastern parts of Europe, but because of the way the trough and the ridge are aligned, we are bringing the air out of Greenland. That could be quite cold, especially for the north, with the risk of some wintry potential. Times you might even get a little bit of wintry stuff down in the south. To really get a cold pack, we've still got the above average heights extending into Spain and Portugal. We need them to move out of the way, really. Want to get them out in the middle part of the Atlantic. They want to take this high pressure and shift it a bit more southwards and westwards, somewhere towards Bermuda. If we do that, then we could start to set up proper blocking up here, which would turn the winds into the north. At the moment, it's still not quite right, but it does look a little bit better to bring some cooler air in towards Scotland, particularly. Very similar with the GFS. That was the ECMWF, of course. This is the GFS. Again, we've got the trough extending through Scandinavia into northeastern parts of Europe. There's the ridge in the middle part of the Atlantic, so it's just there. And it does extend down towards Spain and Portugal as well, which doesn't help things. We need to get the heights out of Spain and get some low pressure going down there. So this is how the jet stream again is realigned and the flow doing something like that, northwest southeast. There is the potential some cooler weather, probably bringing in a little bit more of an Atlantic influence though. With that, so it's not quite as cold, but there's not quite as much cold potential with GFS as there is with the ECMWF, but it's a very similar type situation, really, and we'll only take a very subtle adjustment to bring the air out of Greenland as opposed to out of the central Atlantic. So these are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles, or the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. The red line, 30-year temperature average, as you know. We're a bit colder than average at the moment. We're going to be going milder than average over the weekend. Going to be quite a mild weekend. Into next week, the trend is through next week is to turn things gradually cooler. So you notice that the ensemble members are trending underneath that red line. And the white line, which is the trend of the ensemble, that is going underneath the red line as well, underneath the 30-year temperature average. So we're certainly going into a cooler spell by the look of it into the middle part of January. You wouldn't necessarily say it's depths of winter. We're not talking about a Siberian freeze here, but we are going into a cooler spell if you believe those ensembles. Precipitation shows there's going to be some rainfall coming up, quite wet actually tomorrow and then into the early part of Saturday. And then we go through into next week, and it looks unsettled. You wouldn't say it's desperately wet, but it looks more unsettled than we've had it recently as we get this northwest-southeast flow coming in. I think it will be bringing some rain bands, and for the north, as I say, there could be some wintry potential in with that. Temperature anomalies from the 5th through to the 13th of January, looking a little bit on the milder than average side. These might go a bit cooler next week, but this is still encompassing the weekend, which is going to be really quite mild into the start of next week as well. So same idea as what we've been looking at with this all week. Ireland, the UK, Denmark, Scandinavia coming out more or less milder than average. And then we go down into the eastern part of Europe, and that's where all the cold air is, particularly cold again through eastern Europe and into the southeast. Around the Balkans, the temperature normally is around 10 degrees colder than average, and that does extend down in towards Greece and Turkey as well. Precipitation anomalies for next week show it's above average precipitation in the east of Europe, much of that could be snow. In the west of Europe, we remain a little bit drier than average, but maybe trending more unsettled. What I suspect will happen next week is that these anomaly charts will go a little bit cooler and a little bit wetter. Nothing outstanding in terms of cold or rain, but I think they will trend cooler and more unsettled next week. Be interesting to look at them on Monday and see what they're showing. So these are the generic charts then. This is the GFS first of all, and we're in this westerly flow on Monday, bringing a band of rain through the country. It's a midnight, 6 o'clock run, I should say, of the GFS. Bringing a band of rain through the country, that could be quite wet on Monday. On Tuesday, it turns a little bit cooler and more showery, because it's all a very Atlantic driven. Then we've got this northwest-southeasterly flow coming through on Wednesday. It's probably quite mild in the south, but turning a bit colder perhaps up in the north. More low pressure comes through towards the end of the week, and that does bring in this cooler northwesterly flow. That could well bring wintry showers in towards Scotland, and even in the south it would be turning a little bit on the colder side behind fairly active cold front. Try to get winds into the north on Saturday the 14th, bring a bit of a northerly down across the country, but as we go up to day 10, Sunday 15th, the flow is reverting back to the west again, and another bout of rain probably coming through. Behind this area of low pressure, you see there's quite a deep area of low pressure there that's running through. Behind that, I suspect we would turn the winds into the northwest once more. So, I mean, we're not talking about depths of winter, we're not talking about a severe freeze, but I think as we get through to the middle part of January, we are looking at cooler weather with wintry showers potentially up in the north. It's nothing really to get excited about, but it's a little bit more seasonable in terms of snowfall compared to what we've had so far this winter. If we have a look at the upper air temperatures, you can see what's going on with them, and we are still relatively cold there on sunny 15th of January, although you notice there is another warm sector waiting in the wings to roll through. Behind that, more cold air coming out of Greenland. So I suspect, yes, we are going to go into cooler phase through the middle part of January from a polar maritime airstream. This is the E70F. It's a little bit better for a colder period through the middle part of the month. So this is Monday when it's still looking quite mild and probably a band of quite heavy rain moving through the country as well. Into Tuesday, a bit of a northwesterly swipe, could bring wintry showers to the north. Then Wednesday's a milder day. Then we start getting this push of colder air from the northwest. And as you go through to the end of next week, it does look quite cold for the north, that actually. That could certainly be bringing wintry showers into Scotland, maybe even a little bit more widely than that. And then actually on Saturday 14th, wind does go into the north. So sometime around the 13th, 14th of January, it looks like we've got a bit of a northerly, but not lasting too long, but enough to bring snow to northern parts of the country. And then at day 10, the winds are reverting back to the west, so we started to pull in more westerlies round with this area of low pressure bringing wet weather across the country. That might be preceded by snow, of course, as it hits colder air. Behind that, again, you see we've got the ridge through the Atlantic and then extending northward. So as this low pressure clears through in that sort of direction, I suspect this ridge will pull up north and we push down northerly winds, or I should do it there, push down northerly winds again around the 16th, 17th of January. So it does look colder there through the middle part of January. We aren't talking about a severe freeze up, but it looks, particularly for the north, a little bit better for some snowfall. These are the GFS and ECMWF ensembles from the website weathercast.co.uk for the next couple of weeks. The red line here with this is surface temperature, by the way, rather than upper air temperature, what we're just looking at. So the red line here is the ECMWF, and the blue line is the GFS. And you notice red line stops before the GFS. That's because the ECMWF only goes out to 240 hours, whereas the GFS, the ECMWF operational run only goes out to 240 hours day 10, whereas the blue line is for GFS, and that goes out to 384 hours, so it goes out further. But you see the general trend of both the models really is to start off quite cool just here, then we turn it milder over weekend, start of next week just there, and then the trend is certainly downwards, I think, as we're going through into the middle part of the month. So this is 15th of January just here, when it looks like both models are trending a little bit on the colder side. And that GFS actually at 240 hours at day 10 was significantly warmer than the ECMWF at the same time. Was a bit of a warm outlier at that point of the operational run of the GFS. So it looks like the trend is definitely there to turn things cooler into the middle part of January. These are the ECMWF ensembles for DeBuilt as well. It's the same idea. You can see that over the weekend, well, starting off very cold in DeBuilt now. That's in Holland, of course. They're in the big freeze at the moment, but it's not going to last very long. And over the weekend inside of next week, it looks quite mild. And then the trend for DeBuilt, same as for the UK, is to trend the ensembles downwards and trend the temperature downwards, so turning cooler from the middle part of the month, possibly lasting into the second half of the month. Snow spikes appearing as well. There's some snow spikes there as the big freeze ends in DeBuilt. There could be some snow over the weekend, probably on Saturday. And then into next week, not much snow. Well, we've got that mild spell going on, and then snow really coming back in Holland as we go through into the middle part of the month. So we're not talking about depths of winter, but it looks like we're going to get something cool. Right? I was talking about this yesterday. Now, we looked at GFS ensembles last night, and there was a suggestion that some ensemble members want to extend this into a proper cold spell, or develop it into a proper cold spell. I'll be a bit dubious about that, to be honest. I think what's likely to happen is that we're going to continue roughly as we are right now to around middle part of the month. Then we'll turn it cooler from the northwest, and then we might alternate the air masses for a bit. So sometimes quite cold with northerly winds or northwesterly winds, sometimes backing into the west-southwest. So a bit of a duel going on between conflicting air masses, perhaps around the middle and second half of the month. Whether that would eventually evolve into an extended cold spell, I can't say. But at this moment, I think the risk of developing this into a proper blocked and cold setup, until we see those heights properly pulling out of Spain and shifting southwards and westwards in the Atlantic, until that really happens across several models and is supported by all the ensemble stuff as well, I think we're going to be dubious about extending this into a proper cold spell. But it does look cool around the middle part of the month, and certainly for the north I think there will be some wintry potential later next week and sort of into the middle part of January. Right, that's all now. JMA Friday. Tomorrow we'll do month-ahead look ahead with the Japanese and CFS B2 models. That's all now. Thanks for watching.